And we're back. So, let's use this key and see if we can't save Clover and ourselves. This key. Shape sure makes it seem like it would go to this machine. Alright, I'm turning it on. Okay, the monitor's on now. And it's full of letters. It's showing some kind of warning. Power restored to experimental device. Emergency systems will activate in the event of a... abnormal subject behavior. Okay. Typing on this keyboard isn't doing squat. Clover? There's something sticking out of the mannequin's head. Like wires or something. What the hell are they doing in there? Oh, why is she all quiet now? They're doing experiments on humans, probably. Oh man, now she looks sad. Junpei, this thing in here is on now. Yeah, that's because we activated the power over on this side. Could you, like, play with it a little? Okay, yeah. Turn this dial here. Huh, I don't think it's working. Nothing's happened. Maybe she missed something. I should ask her to look around the room again. I wonder what they washed in here. All these weird colored stains all over the sink. There's a monitor, there's a whole lot of cables under the table. It's gotta be scribblings from the table already. It's a rack. There are a bunch of cables on it. Somebody cut the outer stuff off the cables. I can see the wires inside. I guess these drains for water, huh? There's nothing here. Mannequin lying on the exam table. I can't really see it very well from here, but it looks like there are a bunch of electrodes sticking out of its head. No, can't do that. Drain for water, hasn't used a long time, so it's completely dried up. Maybe if you increase the voltage. Roger, will do. Okay, I'm going all the way to max voltage. Max voltage? Hey! Wait, Clover! Shit. What? I think, Oh dear. Oh my god! The mannequin's head! Oh man, that sounds like a fire alarm. Oh, what the hell? Fire detected, fire detected. Emergency system will be activated. Evacuate the room immediately. Emergency system activated! Open! The control device for the electronic door lock. The green light is on. Junpei! Look at the light! Yeah, it's green. Emergency system has activated the disabled lock. Now we can save Clover. Junpei! Come on, kid, jump, it's safe! Oh man, this smoke is some serious business. Time to close this door again, I think. Clover, are you okay? Are you hurt? Damn, she's coughing so hard she can't even talk. Of course I'm not alright! What the hell took you so long, you big jerk? I'm almost dead! Sorry, I was going as fast as I could. You two can do this later. Right now we need to get the hell out of here. That fire's not going to stay in that room forever. I'm totally not leaving Clover behind. I know better. And we have found the way out. Some of these locked room puzzles aren't as devious as I was expecting. I wonder if that's going to change. Junpei, Clover, and Lotus slipped out of the laboratory, slamming the door shut behind them. All three collapsed against the wall, head breathing heavily. Notice how that whenever there's a problem that arises that's going to shorten our time or basically give us the time limit they mention, it's our cause, or we're the ones that make it happen. Junpei leaving his room in the first place, in the first room, let the water spread to the entire deck. We had to light that fire and cause the smoke so that the fire alarm system would kick in so we could escape. Us escaping from the rooms is what's causing this ship to collapse. That's a devious setup. All three collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Junpei's heart was pounding in his chest. His whole body felt weak. He inhaled gulps of clear air, and with each one, he could feel his body begin to calm down. All right, let's go. They nodded to each other and started down the hallway. Off down the hallway. Before long, they found a few new doors, but all of them were locked. Soon they had tried all the doors but one. The final door sat in the corner of the hallway. Junpei grabbed the door handle, was about to pull it open when a voice cried out behind him. It was neither Clover nor Lotus, but he recognized it. There was no doubt the voice belonged to Junpei! He spun around. There at the other end of the hall, Junpei saw human figures running toward him. 3 of them. Wow, we already got our groups back together. Awesome! June, Santa, and Seven. They stopped short in front of Junpei and his companions, gasping for air. Hey! What are you guys doing here? What? But we didn't... Before he could finish, Clover spoke. Guys, could you come over here? She was standing near the end of the small hallway, which branched off to the right. The rest of them ran over to her, curious of what she'd found. There was something on the wall at the end of the hallway. Oh, it's the map! A map of the ship's interior. It said C deck in the upper left corner. Most likely they assumed it was a map for the floor they were on. At door 7 and door 8. The map confirmed that they already knew. Both doors eventually led to the hallway where they found themselves. Hold on. That means this door, it would be door... No, that's the door that skipped. This would have been door 3. So, boom, boom, boom. It would have led to the same place. But this door wasn't open. Because there was no way there could have been a puzzle here. Well done. In fact... Yeah, isn't that what it said? Till we find that 9 door, Zero ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll always see each other again. Otherwise, we can't open door 9. That's how the nonary game works. Junpei looked at the map of the ship interior again. As he looked more closely, his surprise and excitement gave way to weariness. One by one, the others saw what he'd seen. As one, they all moved back towards the door that Junpei had only a moment ago been trying to open. He pulled the map of the ship's interior off the wall, in his pocket, and followed the others. There's no door on this end. Only door is on this end. Oh, this is where we're at right now. So, we'd be going backwards. Great. The 6th... Wait, that's exactly what we want! If Ace is okay, if he's not killed himself, we can still get him, and Snake might be over there too! The 6 of them stood in front of the door, arrayed in a semicircle. Santa stepped forward, took hold of the door and spoke without looking back at the other 5. Ready? I'm gonna open it. They nodded their silent assent. With a deep breath, Santa threw open the door. They poured through the doorway and into the room. Even without looking around, each of them knew where they were. They were just where the map had said they would be. The same room they'd been not in so very long ago. The tremendous central hospital room with empty beds from wall to wall. I see. I believe I understand what you're saying. Ace is okay! Yes! The 6 of you split into 2 teams. I went through doors 7 and 8. We solved the puzzles in the operating room and the laboratory, and then met one another in the hallway after opening your respective locked doors. Wait, is there some reason why we have to go through all the doors? They did say 9 doors. So far we've gone through every numbered door possible, but we skipped 3. He looked like anyone might, just waking up, but it seemed his brain was working as well as ever. He had managed to grasp, summarize, and understand each team's report. At any rate, I feel a bit silly for my little show of altruism. I'm sure you'll be back for me. I did hope you would come back. I confess I didn't think you'd be back so soon. Ace shook his head with a rueful smile. Well, we saw each other again and we ain't dead, so I say that's good enough. Seven smiled. Anyway, I say we get out of this creepy old place. Found the key we need. The key? Ain't that what I just said? I'm talking about the Jupiter key. We found it in this operating room. Here. Seven tossed something small and metallic toward Junpei. So we have Jupiter and we have Earth. I'm gonna remind myself what those symbols look like. Oh, Jupiter key was the one whose symbol I didn't recognize. Earth is the other one. Okay. Caught it and found the object was a key. Okay, so that's what Jupiter looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. On it, an engraved symbol very similar to a 4. He looked over at June, who nodded back. Had to be the Jupiter symbol.
I'm gonna let you hold on to that, alright?
Yeah, got it. Well, I've got something for you too, then. Here. It's a Saturn keycard to be found in the kitchen. I might lose it. It's probably better for you to hold on to it. Alright, so we have the Jupiter key, we have the Earth key, and we have the Saturn key card. Interesting. I might lose it. It's better if you hold on to it. It's not like you have any pockets. That way it won't be my fault if it gets lost. And with that, she pressed it in Junpei's hand. He felt slightly less than honored. As a group, they now had 3 keys that had not been used. The Earth key, which had been found in the laboratory. The Jupiter key, which Seven had just handed Junpei. The Saturn key card, which Lotus had just handed Junpei. Junpei tucked the new keys into his pocket. June spoke up. Yeah, that's actually how I kind of wrote it, as a 21. The Jupiter key is supposed to be at the door at the end of that long straight hallway, right?
Yeah. If the map's right, then it connects to the central staircase.
Then
next to the stairs.
Wait. They were the first words anyone heard from Clover in some time. Wait. Her face suggested they weren't going to be very happy words. Way too late anyway. Yeah, possibly. What about door 3?
Look, you saw the map, right? It's the same as 7 and 8.
But it might have a key in it.
It'd just end up being, sending us back to the big hospital room. There's no point in seeing what's on the other side of that door.
There is a point. At least there is for me. There were tears in her eyes. She glared at Seven as hard as she could, just the same. She looked very much like a frightened puppy. There wasn't a man alive who could have resisted those eyes. Seven looked everywhere in the room except at Clover and muttered and coughed apologies under his breath.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Snake might be the other side of door 3.
Clover nodded once. The next person to speak was Ace.
Very well. I'll be coming with you then. I've had a nice long rest. I think it's time I was out and about again. So 7, you'll help me, won't you? Huh? Me?
Junpei did the calculations quickly in his head. Yep. It looked like 7 was doing them too. Yeah, at least he gave up. At last he gave up.
Damn. Well, I guess that's how it's gotta be. So I'm going with you, huh?
Yes, you are.
Alright, let's get moving.
And so it was decided that Clover, Ace, and 7 would discover what lay beyond door 3.
Okay, we're heading out.
Be careful.
Whoa, didn't think I'd hear that from you, Lotus.
Don't let it go to your head. We'd be in trouble if 3 of you bought it. The rest of us can't open the 9 door.
Ah, the truth comes out.
7 nodded, as if the answer made much more sense, and pulled the lever on the red.
Okay, let's go.
The door opened, and Ace, Clover, and 7 jumped through it. 6, 7, 8. After exactly 9 seconds, the door closed noisily. Alright, we should get moving too. Huh? Get moving? Where are we going? Everyone except Lotus seemed rather confused. We should be using those keys to find out what's going on? Well, it would be a waste of time to just sit around, wouldn't it? Let me explain. I get it. We're gonna see if we can get anywhere interesting with the Jupiter key. Yes, if we're lucky, we might find Snake. Now I'm pretty sure it was Lotus who fixed the red. Yeah, because she has those computer skills. For some reason, I didn't make that connection. But why? I don't like it. It's possible that this is just a ploy by her to try and get rid of Snake and get rid of specific people so that we can open the 9 door at the end. But she's playing the long con if she's doing that. She's planning really far ahead. We're at the end of the hallway lined by individual hospital rooms. The Jupiter symbol is engraved on the keyhole. Alright, Junpei, open it if you would please. Yeah, on it. Junpei pulled out the Jupiter key out of his pocket and slid it in the keyhole. He twisted. With a nice sharp click, he felt the door unlock. Alright, ready guys? Junpei's companions nodded. He nodded back, then slowly and quietly opened the door. Inside was exactly what he expected to see from the map of the ship's interior. They were in a tremendous hall, almost like a ballroom, with a massive central staircase. Great, back to the beginning. You sure this is a good idea? What do you mean? Well, we already searched every inch of this room, didn't we? I'm asking you if there's any reason we came back here. We have more keys! Of course there's a reason! Man, sometimes I can't tell if you're smart or just lucky. Huh? This. Pulled two things out of his pocket. The Saturn keycard, and the Earth's key. Santa cocked his head to one side like an inquisitive bird and looked at them. After several long moments, during which it became apparent Santa had no idea what the cards meant, Junpei took pity on him. Don't you remember, Santa? On C deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? And next to the elevator, there was a card reader with the Saturn symbol on it. And on A deck, to the door to the left, there was a keyhole with the Earth symbol on it, I think. So the two keys that Junpei has should let us use the elevator and the door on A deck. Huh. Yes, that's right. June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa. Alright, I got it. Let's get started then. What do you say we split in two teams? Lotus and I will search the Earth one. You two can search the Saturn, alright? Sounds good. Junpei handed the Earth key to Santa. They decided that their initial search should be brief, only 10 minutes. They'd meet back near the staircase once they were done. Junpei and June headed for the elevators. Sure enough, there is a card reader pulled to the wall next to the left elevator. He lined up the Saturn keycard and swiped it to the reader. The light in the upper left corner blinked to life. Great. Looks like we're working now. It's working now. Alright, now how do I call the elevator? There's a single button on the right of the elevator door. On the button, there was an upside-down triangle with the universal symbol for down. There didn't appear to be an up button. Junpei pushed it. He didn't have much of a choice. It opened! Look, Junpei! June's voice was excited, but Junpei could hear a tinge of anxiety. Sweet, it opened. Let's get going. He grinned at June and stepped forward into the door. As he was about to set foot in it, he felt his hand on his arm. Wait. What? I'm not really... Oh gosh. Junpei was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? A phobia to do with elevators or heights, maybe? June was probably afraid of... being locked up alone with a boy. They could only go down. Right. This is C deck, as in the one right above D deck. She was afraid that the only elevator button pointed down. That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen elevators on A or B decks near the central staircase, all of which meant the elevator could only convey them to the lower decks, and the floor below the one they were on, D deck, should be completely submerged. That meant... Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right? Well, yes, I guess it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button. There was a motor noise, like it was moving, and then it opened. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So take a look inside. Junpei jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator. Bone dry. Not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry. Oh, you're right, they are. She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed. No, that was a fair assumption to make. But this must mean it's in a sealed-off part of D that isn't submerged. Interesting. Well, let's test it. Test it? Yeah, watch this. Junpei put one foot in the elevator and bent down in the corner of the door until he could see the floor buttons. There were only two, E and C. He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut, and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. Or it goes to an even lower floor than D, which, for some reason, also is not submerged. A few moments later, they heard the sound of the elevator door grinding open several floors below. Junpei nodded to June and pressed the elevator button again. A few moments later, the elevator returned. The door slid open, and just as Junpei had expected, there was no water to be found. See? Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest a little bit. June, however, still looked confused. What does that mean? How can the E-deck be safe if the D-deck is full of water? Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft in E-deck must be watertight and separated from whatever the ship's been punctured. Here, let me show you. He pulled out his notebook and a pen and sketched out a rough illustration. See? So, it's just the way, I see. So is that why the ship hasn't sunk? The shape of the inside keeps it from filling with water? Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Junpei continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket. So I'm gonna go down and check it out. You stay here, alright? But, come on, just do it, alright? Gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze, then hopped on the elevator. Pushed the E button, and the door began to close. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision, when suddenly... I'm coming with you! Huh? At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways just in time to slip through the gap between closing doors. Junpei jammed his finger up against the open button, but it was too late. The door had shut. He and June were in the elevator, and it was headed down to E-deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't have time to think about what awaited for him on E-deck. The elevator stopped and the door slid open. He stepped off onto the floor outside the elevator. Nothing seemed especially unusual. No fish going about their fishy business, or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. There was, however, a blowfish. Or at least something that looked very much like one. June's cheeks were puffed out, and her mouth was a tiny, intense frown. Oh, knock it off. Just like I thought, this part hasn't been flooded. Come on, let's look around. No water here. June looked around nervously when... Ah! Exhaled. You're right. It's not flooded at all. See? But there's a whole lot of water. Yeah, right on top of us. What's going to happen if the ceiling breaks? Junpei thought about that for a moment. We'd probably die. Oh no. Don't be so casual about something like that. At any rate, we should probably go back as soon as we can once we're done looking around here. Lotus and Santa might already be back. Okay, good idea. Junpei glanced around the room they'd found themselves in. First thing he noticed was a set of thick iron bars. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one. Well, we can't go over there. Right. Then perhaps... In the corner room that housed the elevator, Junpei found an opening. He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner. A 6. But only a 6. A long straight hallway stretched out in front of him. The door at the end of the hallway. There's something written on it. Yeah, let's go have a look. Junpei and June set off down the hallway at a brisk clip, somewhere between a run and a jog. Before long, they found themselves in front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint. 6. I knew it. This is a numbered door! And indeed, there was a red bolted on the wall next to the door. Of course, only 2 people, there wasn't much they could do with it. Alright, let's head back. Yes! Junpei and June turned and head back to C-deck. On their way back, Junpei noticed a map on the wall. As it turned out, it was a burnt map of the ship's interior for E-deck. Alright, give me a moment. Save. Oops, wrong button. Alright, hadn't saved in a while. No, I don't want to quit. Menu... Map? There's the colored area on the bottom screen displaying a large version of the room map. I hadn't given these a good look yet. These seem to be all the rooms we were in before. Here's C-deck. Shower room? We never entered a shower room. And the operating room is something we didn't do either. That must be where the other people went. Wait, if that's the case... Kitchen, right. We didn't go to the kitchen. And we never went to a second-class cabin. We only went to a first-class cabin. Interesting. Ooh, wow. There is a burnt-off section of this one. Chapel. That must be where we go next. Huh. So you guys found door 1. They met back up with Santa and Lotus, who had explained what they'd found. Apparently there was another numbered door on A deck, just like the one on E deck, beyond the door that the Earth Key opened. According to Santa and Lotus, they were on the, there was a 1 door. Okay, I need to change my notes, because I crossed off Ace, and he's back. Alright. All told, they had discovered 2 new doors, the 6th door and the 1 door. It is interesting that E-Deck wasn't flooded. Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in thought. But we don't really know if all of E-Deck is safe. We only checked the area around the elevator. Even so, it's still very interesting. You said the 6th door was there, right? Yes. And that means Zero planned this all out, even the sinking. That would have meant some pretty serious remodeling of the ship's interior. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Yeah. I wonder how long it took. I can't even imagine how much this must have cost. It would have been a ton, that's for sure. Well, that does go along with what Ace was saying. The most reasonable explanation would be that this was done by some organization with access to a whole lot of cash. Yeah, it does make sense. Goodness, this game requires a lot of talking. Excuse me while I take some sips of water. There. Huh. That thought made them go all quiet for a moment. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off in the distance of nothing. I don't think it's a very good idea to stay here. June looked up at Junpei with large, pleading eyes. Yeah, you're right. Ace and his team might be back already. Well, Junpei and I should be able to open door 1. Huh? You guys leaving me behind? Just kidding. Alright, let's go. Lotus's words were all the impetus they needed. Back to the large hospital room they went. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room. Hey! Where the hell did you guys go? It was 7. Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back. It looked as though there was something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she were only moments from passing out entirely. Oh no. But how? The only... what combination of people would it take for Snake to go through door 3? Either him and Ace, which wouldn't work. Which wouldn't work, right? You need at least... no. Only the people that go through the door set off the device, right? Somebody had to work with her. Somebody had to help Lotus. 8 plus 2, 10. To get to 3, Santa would have to help. Santa and Lotus could be in cahoots. For a long moment they simply stood there looking at one another. But how would we not hear the explosion? That doesn't seem likely. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at 7. What happened? What the hell kind of question is that? 7 was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained. Snake is... 7 couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by... Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. Took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke. Snake is... dead. He died, just as the 9th man did. Ugh. Lotus and... I'm assuming the least amount of people were required to pull this trick off. as such, all you would need is Lotus and Santa to open that door, push Snake in, and then step back and let the door close. Why didn't we hear the explosion? It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beating down his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All three were frozen in place, their faces white. Oh my god. It's not true, is it? You would make sure. You would make sure. You're right, we should. We should make sure, sorry. They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door. Wait! Not that way. They stopped short and turned to look at 7. He was pointing at the door with no number. I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go through that way. Where is he? The shower room on the left side of the hallway. I put a broom in there too to keep the door open. We can get in without going through the numbered door, right? Yeah, that's right. Their new destination cleared, Junpei and his companions head for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the middle door on the left wall. It hadn't been open and they'd been through before. DJ Beats, hello! But now, just as 7 had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open. They looked at it for a moment and stepped inside. Doing bud? I'm doing good! Unfortunately, one of the characters in this game aren't. Ugh, it smells horrible. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut. Yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke. It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick you could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish feces and burnt meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged. R. Who fits R? They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere. A few arms of the splatter reached toward them as they walked to the door. All one could do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider. June, you should stay here. But... Please just do me a favor, okay? Alright? He didn't have a chance, give her a chance to say no. Put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her to the ground like a tent pole. Turned and walked toward the end of the divider. It felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as was a pair of children. Eventually they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hand on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in a great red sea. A vast ragged hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out like fresh spaghetti. Smaller chunks of meat splattered against the wall and became stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it. Just like Ace said. Since voice was strained, Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own. Just like the Ninth Man. The detonator's bracelet set off the bomb in his gut. It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful. His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna. His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces. Grab it! Now that it's torn apart, maybe we can get some information from it. Not to be cold in a situation like this, but that's what I would suggest to do, because if you're going to prevent more deaths, you need all the information you can get. Half of his head had simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. It is super gross. His clothes, too, were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the gray slacks. They were all familiar to Junpei. No mistake about that. Snake. Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. What other combination of people could have done it? It could have been just one person. Remember, they were broken. Maybe there was a way to open it while they were still broken. But that would still make me suspect Lotus, because then someone had to reset the red. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. How do your teeth curl? It sounded like a noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. My teeth are curling, oh no! But I have paid so much money, or my parents did, for orthodontics. No, my teeth! Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Snake was probably murdered. Chances are he was killed in the same way the Ninth Man was. Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each of them in turn and continued. It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate the red to open the door 3, and they shoved him into it alone, and waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Fortunately, it didn't work. The detonator only deactivated everybody who authenticated when they went and used the dead, and then 81 seconds after he was shoved in. That happened. I see. So that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake. It wouldn't open for Snake, it had a single killer. Exactly. That means we're looking at multiple perps here. Junpei crossed his arms and grunted. Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed? When we all split up to look for the parts of the Reds, I think. Right after that, it was when we noticed he was gone. That means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching rooms we've been assigned, looking for those parts. Okay. Numbers that could make 3 as a digital root. 12 and 21. To get 12 with a 3... No, sorry, Snake is a 2, right. Get that. Get 12, you need 10 more, which means a 7 and a 3. So Mount... Oh, no! I was wrong. I don't think Lotus could have done it. No, she could have. No, she could have. Never mind. Oh, wait. Wait. No. Lotus... Am I doing algebra? Let me show you something real fast. Calculator. This is called a digital root. It's a thing in this game that you have to do a lot. If you take digital root of 12, you get the number 3. What you do is you add the number in the ones place and the twos and the tens place, or tens place and the ones place until you get. Sorry, I'll switch the screens. Until you get a single-digit number. So the digital root of 12 is 3. Digital root of 21 is also 3. Unfortunately, I keep fucking up. That's not the right digital root. Alright, so who could form it? Anyone who could form a 10. So Mountain and Santa could do it. Then we also have anybody who could form 19. Which would need 3 more people, no matter what. So if there's only 2 people... I just explained digital root. It's... let's say digital root of 57, bam, equals 3. You would add these 2 numbers together, and you would get 5 plus 7... equals 12. Then you would add 1 plus 2, and that would equal 3. And that's how you get a digital root. You just keep adding the tens place and the ones place until you get a single digit number. I was wrong, it couldn't be Lotus. I keep doing the math wrong on these digital roots. It has to be Mountain and Santa. Unless it was June and Clover, which no. Digital root is something that they teach you early on in this game and have you do a lot of. It's one of the main themes for the math in this game.
Yeah, that means anybody could be the killer.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about? June seemed shocked. How can you say one of us is a killer so casually?
Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers. Why don't you calm down a bit, 7? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know. What Zero wants? Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and a loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for victory.
Then you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up and making us fight each other?
Yes. That's why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations.
Then, does that mean that the person who killed Snake?
Yes, almost certainly Zero himself.
Thank you, DJ Beats.
If there's anyone who should doubt it, if we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well?
Ace, you're not above suspicion either. Let's look at this again. To get a 12, you would need 9 more. Which you could do... which you can't really do with the numbers we've got left. I don't like this.
Junpei hadn't really considered that. If Zero had killed Snake, then Zero was on the ship with them. Was Zero still on the ship with them?
I think Zero is on the ship, but I think he's one of them. That's my biggest suspicion. But it's entirely possible he isn't. Everything is automated. He doesn't need to be here. But he could be, and that's why it's automated as well, because he can't be seen actively doing anything. Ugh. I'm not so sure, though. I'm gonna go with you, of course, because my biggest suspicion is that he's here.
Of course he was. That was obvious. Zero was somewhere on this ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled himself deep in thought.
Now, I'm sticking with I think he's here. I think he's one of them.
Where could Zero be hiding?
In plain sight? Suddenly everybody went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again he heard the ghosting moaning noise. And then moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was cold monotone. You think Zero is one of us? Holy shit! That's somebody else who had the right idea. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the muffled rustling of breath. Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Junpei said. Well, that's possible. Huh? Like Clover said, Zero might be one of us. What are you saying, Jumpy? Didn't you hear what Ace said? Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for no reason. No reason? I've got a great reason. And what's that? The bracelets. He held out his left arm. Why are the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? We're all thinking Zero's hiding somewhere watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise and a lot easier. But, if that's the case, then why is the bomb set off by a detonator in the bracelet? Like I keep saying, everything is automated, so he doesn't need to be actively working on it. So yes, by that logic, he doesn't have to be here to do it. But by that logic, he also could be right in front of our faces, and everything would be automatic, so we would have nothing he needed to do. Sir Matt, hello. Huh, you got a point. I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to Nonary game. All the puzzles here run all by themselves. In other words, Zero doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why is that? Why would Zero bother to do something like that? Junpei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. So, let's say you and Clover are right. Zero's one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right? Yeah. Junpei nodded. 7, what we talked about earlier. You said one of us could kill Big Snake's killer, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright then, I've got a question for you, Ace. You said something like Zero must be the one who killed Snake, right? Yes, something like that. I can't think of any other explanation. So what do we get if we combine those? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake equals Zero equals one of us. Snake and Ace's theories aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. I still can't get over the thing from June. The Kappa missing was a shame. At least they do if Zero was one of us. No one spoke. Interesting how we put that through like a math puzzle. Their faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up. What were his motives? His motives? Yes, isn't that pretty important? Why would Zero want to hide as one of us? Oh. That's because, Junpei choked. He hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself, he had no idea. I don't know. We don't have enough information for that kind of thing yet. Lotus sighed. Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Junpei. In other words, you had only circumstantial evidence. I didn't really think that was enough to go on, you know? Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else to look at, just when he felt he could bear it no longer. Uh-oh. 4 hours left. Does the killer change every time I play? I have no idea, DJ Beats. This is a blind playthrough. So, maybe it does. I do know this game has multiple endings. I know that much. We've had to make a lot of decisions in this game where we don't get to go back and look at places that we could have been. So, I don't know. It might there might be a different killer every time, but I kind of doubt it. Just when he thought he couldn't bear it no longer, they heard the bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase. 3 in the morning. It means we have 3 hours left. 3? Shit, we skipped 4! And we need to move on. Now. 7, Clover, Junpei. I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important we trust one another, don't you? Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. He swallowed the words he wanted to say inside. 7 and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, far away. We must go. We have very little time left. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. It sat bolted onto the wall in the center stairs, led to the casino and the kitchen between the 2 elevators. 0 equals a jerp equals this ship is evil equals 1 plus 4 plus 9 equals 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. Simple math stuff. Damn it, Sir Matt! You must be 0! A Mercury card reader. With math like that, you must be. Junpei stood in front of it with the Mercury key card. 7 had given him the card. I found it when we were checking out the shower room. At least that's what he said. Alright, so we have Mercury as well. I'm gonna go ahead and note that. I'm trying to note every time we have a door that we find, and every time we find a key card, or a key for it. Key card. I think Venus is the only one we don't have a... Venus and the Sun are the only things we don't have keys for right now. Junpei slid the card through the reader. The light on the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise. See, the stupid thing is, I through math, I know who probably did the killing for Snake. It was Seven and Santa. No, wait. Yeah, Seven and Santa. It had to be.
Now they were ready. Junpei and June had been chosen as the investigators. The reasoning behind they'd been the E-deck before and no one else had. As before, Junpei set the elevator ahead to make sure the floor they were heading to wasn't flooded. As before, the elevator returned dry as when it left. Once it had been checked for water, Junpei and June stepped in the elevator. There were only 2 floor buttons they could push.
No, wait! It doesn't have to be Mountain and... It doesn't have to be Seven and Santa. It could have been Lotus and Lion! Ace! It could have been Ace!
That is one hell of a game Ace is playing, though.
Damn! And that would actually fit better, because Lotus is the more suspicious one. Okay, so either Seven and Santa, or Lotus and Ace. One of these are the killers. I wrote it down because I want to make sure I know exactly what the combinations could be. Fuck. But why? We don't know anybody's motives right now. We just know we were taken by Zero randomly. People could have connections that we have no idea about. Also, Ace seems like the type of guy who would be able to fake being the empathetic one, and behind the scenes being like, I know logically about exactly who we need to get through the 9 door. In fact... Fuck. What combination? I'm trying to think of the combinations we need to get through the 9 door, and it's going to drive my mind insane trying to figure all those out. So, there were only 2 floor buttons that they could push, the C button and the bottom buttons. The rest were destroyed or did nothing when pushed. Junpei hit the bottom button. The door closed. Yeah, Sir Matt, I appreciate that. I just love speculating and trying to work these things out and trying to figure the story out before it tells me. And it just, for some... The math part of it is screwing me over. I keep getting the math wrong. Muffled spoilers intensify. The doors closed. Slowly they began to move downward. Sometime later, Junpei and June stepped off the elevator and into the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw that the hallway to their right somehow ended between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end, but not a regular dead end. A 2. There's 3 doors again. Yoshkev, hello! This is a numbered door. This is the 8th one we found. That's 8 doors, right! Shit! There were 2 numbered doors on B deck near the central staircase, which this confirms that you have to go through every single door. Splitting up helps, obviously, but we have to do the same thing we just did. Except I would leave someone behind. No, the numbers might work better this time. I'm not going to put them all through my head right now. There were 2 numbered doors on B deck near the central staircase. There were doors 4 and 5. There were 3 more numbered doors in the large hospital room. Doors 3, 7, and 8. No, actually, I knew immediately that she was talking about the lower decks being flooded. So I immediately was like, oh, you're worried because the other decks are flooded. It didn't occur to me that there was probably an extra scene. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying my playthrough, Yoshkev. I've gotten a lot of people who've said that. A lot of people really like to see this game played blind, and I'm very excited to give it to them. Junpei and June found another door on E deck, and Lotus and Santa had found a 7th on A deck. There's a 6th door on the E deck, and a 1 door on the E deck. 4, 5, 3, 7, 8, 6, 1. And now door 2 stood in front of Junpei. There's only one thing it meant. Do you think the next door we find? Yeah, I think so. Next one's gonna be a door 9. Despite himself, Junpei felt excited. There was something about that excitement that frightened him as well. Did his best to put it out of his mind, and headed back to C deck with June. Alright, Let's open these up. The pieces of paper they folded up lay on the ground next to Junpei's legs. There were 7 of them all told. They were written on paper pulled from Junpei's notebook, and each one bore a code name and a door. Why had they decided to vote that way? They decided it wasn't fair to simply ask everyone at once. They would allow people to force others to go through certain doors. Well, that wasn't the only reason. Junpei had proposed the voting system and had a plan. It wasn't a plan he wanted anyone catching wind of. However, so he did his best to act calm as he began the door and read the piece of paper. Really? Oh, I get it. He's like, oh, you're worried about being in an elevator alone with a guy. And she's like, no, I'm worried about it being wet down there. And he'd be like, what? I can see how that scene would play out. The first one read, Ace, request door 1. Yes, I do. Would you mind, let me explain why. No, we don't have time for that, sorry. Let's keep going. He opened the second one. Next is Santa. He wants door 6. Yeah, that's what I wrote. Junpei continued with 3rd, 4th, and 5th pieces of paper. Clover wants 1, Lotus wants 2, and 7 also wants 2. That is super bad. Wait a minute. There's no way I'm going anywhere with Elephant Man. No, there'd be no point in the voting if we let people change their choices because of stuff like that. But... Just give it up, Lotus. It's not like I want to hang out with some exhibitionist grandma. I'm not an exhibitionist. I'm wearing clothes. Barely. So? Last I checked, that's not a crime. Maybe, but what about common decency? Nobody wants to have to look at a chick who's like a half-naked raisin. 1, she's fucking gorgeous. 2, why are you judging people based on their clothes? 3, back the fuck off, dude. Come on, I don't like her either, but that's no need for these kind of comments. I'm going to kill you. Seriously, those two are going to have the most epic of hate fucks one day, which we will find out about after the break. So get up, stretch, whatever you need to do, be able to keep watching comfortably, and I will be right back.